Remember Eguna, Ikenna, Moke, Ukontra. Papa? Don't look back!
The Land of the Living Dead, released in 1999, was more than just a film. It was an epic that haunted its viewers, scarred them in the best way, and gave Nigerian cinema one of its darkest, most unforgettable tales. The movie had all the ingredients of a classic: myth, sacrifice, dread, and the eternal question of whether man can conquer evil without becoming it. But beyond the story was a cast that made it all believable. These were actors who took on roles rooted in ancient terror and communal survival, and brought them to life with such raw intensity that even today, IGODO is remembered. Let's look at the cast of IGODO and where they are now. At number 10, we have Joe Liod. His role in IGODO was as the old Igwe, the village king who sat at the heart of the community's crisis. He wasn't a warrior or a hero, but his presence carried the weight of leadership. He wasn't out there swinging machetes or confronting demons in the evil forest, but you could feel the burden he carried each time another villager died mysteriously. One of the most memorable scenes Liod had was the village council meeting. You could feel the desperation in his voice, the way he slammed his staff on the ground and demanded answers from the Dibia. Joe Liod was already a veteran at the time of IGODO, and after the film, he didn't stay long in the public eye. While many of his co-stars went on to headline big projects, Liod quietly took on fewer roles, mostly playing elder statesmen in traditional dramas. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2006, leaving behind old memories. At number 9, we have Aichi Monago. He played the Igwe, the man in the village's ruling council. His character didn't have the final say, but he had a voice that mattered. In a movie where almost everyone was either terrified or doomed, the Igwe brought a kind of grim steadiness. His face was always furrowed, his eyes scanning the room like someone trying to make sense of a terrible dream. You could tell his character had seen many storms before, but this one, the one stealing people's souls and dragging them to the evil forest, this one was different. Outside of IGODO, Aichi Monago became one of Nollywood's most recognizable faces. He had this unique ability to be terrifying and hilarious at the same time. One minute he's a warlord, the next he's in a comedy skit with Nkem, Owo, or Aki and Popo. He starred in everything from Aki no Okwa to Isakaba, bringing his larger-than-life energy into every role. Unfortunately, his life later became a public struggle. By 2023, he was battling serious health issues, a stroke left him partially paralyzed, and the news shook Nollywood fans. Despite calls for support and public fundraising efforts, Aichi passed away on March 24, 2024. He was 62. Tributes poured in across social media, not just for his talent, but for the laughter and fear he gave us in equal measure. At number 8, we have Chidi Moare, who played Izu and brought something different to the doomed team of warriors. He wasn't the toughest or the loudest, he was the farmer, simple, focused, close to the earth, and yet he was the first to die. Izu's death shocked viewers because it happened so early in the journey and it was brutal. The group was barely into the evil forest when he met his end, seduced and drowned by a river goddess. Another scene that stood out was when the warriors began their journey. Izu's silent courage as he walked past his crying wife and child was so grounded. You saw a man who didn't expect to be a hero but stepped up anyway because someone had to. Chidi Moare made Izu feel real, and that made his death sting even more. After IGODO, Chidi Moare's star didn't just rise, it exploded. He became a leading man in films like Abuja Connection, Critical Decision, and later Omogeto the Saga. He also hosted reality shows like Gulda Ultimate Search, which made him a household name even among people who didn't watch Nollywood movies. His smooth baritone voice, tall frame, and sharp fashion sense made him Nollywood suave poster boy for years. But Moare also had quiet years. He disappeared from the public eye for a while, battling facial paralysis, Bell's palsy, which he later revealed in interviews, yet he bounced back. In 2023, he stunned audiences with his role in Netflix Shantytown, where he played a villain so convincing fans started comparing him to the likes of Denzel Washington. Chidi is very much active. He posts regularly on Instagram, shows up at film premieres, and is working behind the scenes as a producer too. He's proof that some warriors don't die, they just evolve. At number 7, we have Obi Madu. He played Ikenna the Brawler. the fighter, the one everyone looked to when things got physical. Ikenna didn't talk much, but when something evil moved in the shadows, he was the first to clench his fists. His strength was his identity, and he carried it like a badge of honor. During the trials in the forest, Ikenna fought like a man who believed he could punch his way out of the curse. He died like a warrior, but his death also marked another nail in the group's coffin. Each member's death made the story heavier, and Ikenna's hits especially hard because he was the protector. Obi Madu carried that same larger-than-life energy into his post-IGODO roles. He starred in action-packed epics like Battle of Musanga and Conspiracy, often cast as kings, warriors, or wise elders. He later moved into producing, trying to give back to the industry that gave him fame, but his health took a turn for the worse. Diabetes and kidney complications weakened him, and in 2017 he passed away. It was a major loss, especially since he was working on new projects at the time. At number 6 we have Ignis Azide. He played the role of Okonta. He was one of the 7 chosen warriors sent on the dangerous mission to the evil forest to retrieve the sacred knife that would break the curse plaguing the village. Okonta didn't speak much in the movie, but his presence was strong and solid. He was one of those men whose silence spoke louder than words. One of Okonta's memorable scenes is during the early march into the forest, where the 7 men walked into the unknown with nothing but courage and the charms given to them by the old Dibia. The intensity in Ignis Azade's eyes as they entered the cursed land showed a man who had accepted his fate. After IGODO, Ignis Azide continued to act in a few more Nollywood films in the early 2000s, usually in supporting roles. He never became a household name like some of his co-stars, but he remained a recognizable face in epic and traditional themed Nollywood movies. He was one of those actors who always gave a grounded performance, even if he wasn't always in the spotlight. Over time, however, he faded from the mainstream and many fans lost track of him. Sadly, he passed away in 2018 due to health complications. The news of his death didn't make major headlines, but those who remembered his role in IGODO paid their respects online. At number 5 we have Prince James Uche, who brought the character of Moke to life in IGODO. Moke was the drummer of the group, a role that, though subtle, added depth and cultural texture to the team of warriors. His character represented not just physical bravery but also the spiritual rhythm of the village. The drum is symbolic in African tradition, and having a drummer among the warriors gave the story an added layer of tradition and soul. His death was painful as he was killed by one of the 7 after an attack in the night. After IGODO, Prince James Uche continued working steadily in Nollywood. He was often cast as a traditional elder, chief, or father figure, and his deep voice and mature presence made him perfect for such roles. He had a long career and became one of the respected names in epic and moral-driven Nollywood films. Unfortunately, his later years were marked by severe health problems. He battled diabetes and kidney failure, which eventually left him bedridden and in dire need of medical help. In 2016, the public was moved when photos of him lying in a hospital bed surfaced online. Fundraisers were organized to support his treatment, with some Nollywood actors and fans donating. Despite the support, Prince James Uche passed away in March 2017. His death was a huge blow to the Nollywood community, and tributes poured in, remembering him not just for IGODO but for the decades of solid acting he gave to the industry. Next up at number 4 we have Charles Okafor. He played Agu, one of the strongest and most intelligent warriors in the group. Agu wasn't just brave, he was strategic, firm, and had a real presence. He was one of the last warriors standing, surviving much longer than many of his comrades. His character was the type you looked up to, someone you'd follow into a storm because he carried strength in both body and spirit. Agu and IGODO had a unique bond during the journey, and together they formed the backbone of the mission. But his death was one of the saddest in the movie, not because it was violent, but because it was emotionally devastating. He was killed by a spirit that took the form of his beloved wife, a cruel twist that made the viewers feel the sting of betrayal and sorrow. After IGODO, Charles Okafor remained one of Nollywood's most respected actors. He starred in many successful films like End Time, Blood Money, and Last Burial, often taking on roles that dealt with moral conflict, spirituality, and authority. He wasn't just acting, he was always saying something meaningful with his performances. As time went on, he also moved into producing and directing. He became more involved in behind-the-scenes work and started exploring Christian-themed content, reflecting a spiritual turn in his personal life. He also became a bit more private, choosing not to chase fame but to focus on meaningful work. As of 2025, Charles Okafor is still alive and continues to be involved in Nollywood, though he is less active than before. He is based in Nigeria and is seen as a veteran and elder statesman of the industry. Fans on social media often celebrate him with clips from IGODO and other classics, praising his calm but commanding performances. He's proof that a good actor doesn't need to be loud to make a lasting impact. At number 3 we have the legendary Pete Edozie. He played the old Dibia in IGODO, and he didn't just play that role, he owned it. The old Dibia was the spiritual backbone of the village, the one who spoke to the gods, saw the future, and guided the community through the nightmare they faced. His character didn't enter the forest, but his presence was deeply felt throughout the film. It was the old Dibia who chose the 7 warriors, performed the fortification rituals, and warned them about the dangers ahead. One of the most unforgettable scenes is when the old Dibia chants incantations, bless the warriors, and hand them charms to enter the evil forest. The way he moved, the way he spoke, and the way his eyes seemed to see beyond the physical world, it made the Dibia feel real. He sings with the Igwe, telling him the reason for the village's misfortunes were also powerful, showing that he wasn't just a priest but a wise man, trusted with the fate of the whole village. Pete Edozie is one of the greatest actors Nollywood has ever produced. Even before IGODO, he had already made history with his legendary role in Things Fall Apart. But IGODO added another layer to his legacy. After that film, he continued to appear in major Nollywood blockbusters, Billionaires Club, Lion of Africa, Oduduwa, and many more. He became the face of wisdom and strength in the Nigerian film industry. His deep voice, confident body language, and majestic presence made him a favorite for roles involving kings, elders, and spiritual leaders. Over the years, Edozie also became a voice for cultural values, often speaking out on issues affecting society. Pete Edozie is still alive and deeply respected. Though he doesn't appear in as many films anymore, he continues to make occasional appearances and remains a symbol of Nollywood's golden age. He has received several awards and honors, both in Nigeria and abroad, and is regularly mentioned as one of the most influential figures in African cinema. At number 2 we have Sam Dede, who played Ebunna, the fearless hunter who naturally stepped into the role of the group's leader. From the moment he appeared on screen, you could tell this wasn't just another warrior, he was a protector. Ebunna was sharp, smart, and deeply committed to saving the village from the evil that had taken root. Even though the other warriors were strong in their own way, it was Ebunna's courage and sense of direction that held the group together. And what made Sam Dede's portrayal so unforgettable was the sheer authenticity he brought to the character. The most iconic scene from Sam Dede in IGODO is definitely the one where he sacrifices himself. The way he stood firm, knowing full well he wouldn't make it out alive, but still choosing to hold back the demonic spirits so the others could escape. That scene has become etched in the memory of any true Nollywood lover. After IGODO, Sam Dede continued to show why he was one of Nollywood's most talented actors. He starred in movies like Isakaba, The Last Burial, and The Legend of Enigbe, taking on roles that often required deep emotional range or physical presence. But Dede wasn't just about flexing muscles and shouting commands. He could do romance, he could do politics, he could do deep sorrow. That versatility made him one of the most respected actors of his generation. Outside the camera, he's also a respected academic. He became a senior lecturer at the University of Port Harcourt, where he teaches in the Theatre Arts Department. For a while, he even served as the Director General of the River State Tourism Development Agency, showing that his influence goes beyond film. Sam Dede is still very much active. He continues to appear in selected roles, mostly in big productions or films with a strong cultural theme. At number 1 we have Novet Young. He was the heart of IGODO. He played the title character IGODO, a simple flutist who ended up being the only one to return alive from the cursed forest. While others had physical strength, charms, or warrior skills, IGODO's real strength was his spirit. He wasn't the most powerful, but he had the most endurance. His journey from an uncertain villager to the lone survivor made him the emotional anchor of the entire story. One unforgettable moment is the ending, when IGODO returns alone, holding the sacred knife, and tells the villagers the price of their redemption. The way he tells them to cut the evil tree, that scene hits hard. You can feel all the pain and sacrifice in his voice. His flute scenes also stand out. There was something haunting and beautiful about him playing that flute in the forest. It added a quiet cultural richness to the movie that is hard to forget. After IGODO, Novet Young continued to be one of Nollywood's most respected actors, even if he didn't always seek the limelight. He took on roles in films like The Price, Tears in Heaven, and he was a familiar face in many Nollywood TV series like Checkmate. He became known for playing calm, wise, and sometimes tragic characters. There's a certain peace in his acting style. He doesn't shout or overact, but the depth he brings makes his characters unforgettable. Even when younger actors came into the scene, Novet Young remained relevant by taking on mentor roles both on and off screen. In more recent years, he has appeared in modern productions including Rattlesnake, The Ahana Story in 2020, proving that he could still hold his own in the new Nollywood landscape. Novet Young is still alive and occasionally appears in selected projects. He doesn't act in every movie, but when he does, people take notice. He spends his time between acting and mentoring younger talents.